Aloha. Beautiful, miraculous golden adamantine pod. Miracles in cosmic love here. Unity grace. And we are here today to talk about the clouds and to make some connections for all we pod with the skies and the information in the skies that we can connect into. So we're just showing we some amazing clouds, and the clouds in the skies have been remarkable over these mountains in the garden. We like to say in the garden because the earth is a garden. She doesn't have borders, boundaries, taxes, or passports, and she doesn't have names that were given to her by the Freemasons. It's a garden, and it's one sentient being. And so we wanted to share a little bit about the clouds today and our personal navigation systems and how they work, how we Miracles in Cosmic Love was guided all over the planet to do grid work, and how our relationship with the earth works. And this is very significant because on the 22nd of May, even though time isn't real and doesn't exist, we're quantum, but our beautiful brother Shane Shima has done an amazing post on the bypassing of two comets, Comet Swan and Comet Atlas, on 0522 past the Earth, and the mythology in the stars, the mythos, and what it's reflecting to us as a collective on our transitory path here in the beautiful Garden of Gaia. So if you think this love stream is going to be inspiring, please share it, because that's called gifting. And this is a very significant piece for how all of we can be connecting in on a deeper level with what is happening beyond the drama of the end of the aeons of a human story called history. And this is the time to get really deep in our connection and our understanding of our relationship with nature, because right now, and as a vessel of the transmission of nature, which is what we Miracles in Cosmic Love has been on the journey, is a clear voice of nature telling us where she's at and what's happening. And right now we will share with we Adamantine Golden Pod, all of we humans on the planet who come into that celestial alignment, our birthright as angels, beyond masculine, feminine, beyond all of the roles that we've played in a dualistic play. We are sentient consciousness of the heavens. And so we're going to do some dot connecting and how it relates with the clouds. And so the earth, we will say, is a vessel of, as a messenger of the earth, or of Gaia, or even better put, of nature herself. And people call it the forces of nature. We like to call it the powers of nature. She has been swinging her baseball bat on the planet, on archetypal qualities that don't come into alignment and don't support unity consciousness. She's been swinging her baseball bat at that. She's been swinging her baseball bat at underground bases that aren't real and don't exist. She's been swinging her baseball bat at buildings and structures that sit on top, on the surface of the planet, that created once upon a time an artificial matrix that was affecting a lot of the human consciousness on the planet. So if you think this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. We're going to keep going here so that we as a human species can make some really big connections right now with what is occurring inside the planet. Okay, so we're talking about the clouds, and we'll do another little view of these amazing clouds that are currently occurring over this beautiful mountain range in the garden. And this mountain range in the garden, and once again, we don't need to say place names because they're not real and they don't exist. The garden is one sentient being. This mountain range has been going off for nights now, discharging energy. It's a very high mountain range as far as part of the garden is concerned, much higher mountains in other places. This mountain range has been discharging energy for nights now. So the discharge of the energy from the mountains it's kind of like lightning, but it's not lightning because it's not going up to the, it's not coming from the earth, going up to the sky, coming back down like lightning. It's an actual discharge, so the mountains are glowing. We've been trying to videotape it every night, can't get it on the phone. Can photograph it, but cannot video it, even though it's super bright. The mountains are going off, and this is definitely happening all over the planet. This is the most miraculous time for us to understand our relationship with this sphere that we are on. So if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. Okay, so Bruce Lipton was on the cutting edge of the electron microscope in maybe the early 70s. And what he discovered from the electron microscope, because the electron microscope gave us a look into the minuscule or the minute, the micro. Microcosmic, macrocosmic, all the same. It all gives us the same information. And so what he discovered when he started using the electron microscope is that what he was teaching as a professor of medicine science was not right. And so he started to speak out against that. What science was teaching was that we are at the mercy of our genetics. And what he learned from the electron microscope is that it is the environment that affects the genetics, that we are not at the mercy of our genetics. So what he discovered by looking at the electron microscope and looking at the cells very closely is that the true brain of the cell exists on the surface of the cell. The surface of the cell is the true brain, and there's all these little hair-like structures on the external, on the outside of the cell, which is a sphere, and it's all holographic, but it's still a sphere. In what we call 3D or physical form, it's still a sphere. And so the cells are covered in little hair-like structures, and those little hair-like structures, and as we're sharing all these pieces, relate these pieces to who we are as little hair-like structures on the outside of this sphere-like structure called the planet. So what he discovered was the little hair-like structures were like little antennas in the bloodstream, and those little antennas were just waiting to receive messages from the consciousness. Remember, consciousness is non-physical. So there is a consciousness that is informing the little hair-like structures in the human body. The consciousness is the thoughts. And those thoughts would create chemistry in the brain. The chemistry goes into the bloodstream. The little hair-like structures catch on to that chemistry and they bring it into the cell. So once again, we're going to use this as an analogy for what is happening with us as little hair-like structures on the outside of this sphere-like structure that we call the planet, Gaia, Sophia. Nature is the consciousness that is informing us with her thoughts. And the invitation is to listen more clearly now than ever, because there are very big shifts and changes coming in the planetary structure. So this is all transmission. This isn't coming from Wee's mind. We didn't know what was going to come through, except the guidance started to bring through the download about the clouds. There are big shifts and changes coming in the planetary structure. So if we are being invited to align with the messages of the consciousness of nature, And that would be the thought patterns that are coming from nature are emitting signals or chemistry in the blood of the atmosphere of the earth, and we are the little antennas on the outside of the cell of the earth or the planet. And what Bruce Lipton showed was that the actual brain of the cell was not the nucleus inside of the cell. The actual brain of the cell was the little doors and windows on the surface of the cell. So the antennas, that's us, we capture the information. And based on how we hold that information within us, it goes from we could say, this is a metaphor, from our head to our feet to the surface of the membrane of the planet. And then based on how we transduce that information, certain doors and windows open up on the cell or the surface of the planet to take in the information. So we'll go back to the metaphor of the cell. What Bruce Lipton showed and what other science showed was that the cell is very efficient. So this planet is very efficient, and so are the hair-like structures. If the consciousness in a human body is thinking a lot of positive thoughts, what he showed was that the little hair-like structures that were capturing positive thoughts or that chemistry increased in number on the external surface of the cell. And if the chemistry coming from the thoughts was more negative thoughts, then the little hair-like structures that were receiving positive chemistry started to dissolve, and more hair-like structures that were able to receive the negative chemistry started to form on the sphere of the cell, because that's how efficient nature is. And that's us right now. And so Shane Shima has made a very important post on his page. He made it yesterday. And it is about May 22nd, 0522. And even though we're quantum, we still are participating in many levels of consciousness. This post is about the two comets, Comet Atlas and Comet Swan, that they cross past the earth on 0522. And Shane is speaking about a prophecy that this is about a particular gate that either opens or closes based on our interfacing with the consciousness coming in. So this is all about our relationship with nature. What we said at the beginning of this love stream, if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. And this is a very important love stream. So what we were talking about at the beginning of this love stream, as a vessel receiving the messages of nature, because we were born on a new moon, at the new moon, which just makes us a clear vessel of receiving information. We have been witnessing nature rise up in this profound, what we would call rage, and swinging her baseball bat on structures and on consciousness on this planet that is not in alignment with unity consciousness and nature. That is what has been happening, particularly over the last miracle week with the retrogrades. Retrogrades aren't real, they don't exist. Planets aren't real, they don't exist, and still simultaneously, because we're talking about being quantum beings, but we're having a physical experience and we are participating in this experience fully, right? Miracle Now. So through this last week of these retrogrades, nature has come up swinging her adamantine baseball bat at everything that is not in alignment with nature itself, which is balance, harmony, and unity. Okay, so this is why we have the capacity as a species to participate in this 0522 date. And Shane has been messaging We Miracles and Cosmic Love saying, please, like, offer a meditation, do something. This is so important. And at the end of June, because he's reading the mythos of the stars, at the end of June, there is a loud bang. It is the end of the silence. What does this all mean? I guess we get to discover it. But right now, his invitation, and if you go and read his post, and I'll post it on my page, is about us coming into a very sacred relationship with nature now, this miracle now. And as of the 0522, where quantum started now, being in a very sacred relationship with these messages of nature that are coming through. Everything else is a distraction. We know that the Roman Empire is gone. This is the falling of the extension of the Roman Empire that extended itself out beyond the world. Don't worry about it. It's done. Our salvation is in our relationship with nature. This is what all of the prophecies have told us all along. It's what all of the indigenous have known all along. And we have an invitation to come into alignment now through that relationship inside of ourselves and listening. So we'll go back to the analogy of Bruce Lipton and what he was sharing about the cells. And once again, we can relate all of this to our relationship as antennas on the outside of the structure of the sphere of the planet right now. So we'll go back to what we were saying before. And if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting or start a watch party or something, because it's a very significant transmission. And it is coming through the voice of the feminine. All of the prophecies called forth the feminine voice to rise. That is the voice within us that is aligned with nature. The guidance said this week we are replacing AI, artificial intelligence, with FI, feminine intelligence, feminine intuition. And that exists inside of all of us. And the Western world turned off its feminine intuition and its feminine intelligence, and we went the industrialized way, which was not aligned with nature. So FI is what supersedes everything now, because FI is the voice of nature itself, which is within all of us, because we are nature. We're made of nature. This consciousness, if you think of our body as a host vehicle for a consciousness, the individuated ego is being moved out, and we are becoming the host for the consciousness of nature herself. This love stream is so significant for all of we who really want to ride this tsunami wave that is upon us, because all of the stars show us that this isn't over. People keep waiting for the new normal or for it to get back to what it was. It's not. This is the great shift that is upon us, and this is how we align with it. We align with it by coming back into alignment with FI, feminine intuition, feminine intelligence, the voice of nature that is guiding every cell in these physical vessels, because we are made of nature itself. So, okay, back to the Bruce Lipton analogy in the cell. What Bruce showed was the little antennas, as we say, they became very efficient at bringing through the energy, the information of the thought consciousness in our physical bodies. Nature, her thought consciousness right now is emitting so much information to all of us. And if we can walk away from every distraction of a dying, falling world that forgot about FI. Richard Rudd wrote about this when the sun just went into the unity gene recently. He said a society that does not put the feminine first. What that equates to is a society that does not put nature first will crumble. And that's what's happening, because the Western world itself, we don't mean all the people on the planet, because lots of people have remained in contact with nature. But the Western world itself, which has been dominating the consciousness of the planet and suppressing the joy and the celebration of what it truly means to be a divine human, that did not put feminine first. It did not put nature first, and nature gets the last say. And that's what we are about to discover. And so as Bruce Lipton showed, the brain of the cell is not the nucleus, it's the surface of the cell. And the little hair-like structures, you and me, are capturing that consciousness of nature that is informing us. And when we, based on how we take the information in that's coming in, that is what, as we on the surface of this sphere-like structure called a cell or a planet, how we integrate the information is what opens specific doors and windows to let certain energy information into the planet. So we all work together. The earth needs us, we need the earth. And based on how we transduce our experience of what is currently happening is what affects which doors and windows are opened on the surface of the planet, just like the cell. So once, let's say happy chemistry is going through our body and we're producing happy thoughts, and then that chemistry goes into the bloodstream. The little hair-like structures on the cell grab that happy chemistry and they open specific doors and windows on the brain, the membrane of the cell. And that chemistry then enters into the cell. So just like us, how we transduce the messages that are coming in right now, this is the survival of the human species, guaranteed. Go to Bruce Lipton videos right now. He's like, we're on the brink of another destruction of a species on the planet. But we have a choice. This is what Shane Shima is this man has been putting out incredible reports on the cosmology of what is occurring so that we can understand our role in it and participate consciously. The Hopi prophecy says the Masou, the great white purifier, will come and purify the wicked people, purify the wickedness from the people. And even if it is only one brother and one sister that move forth into the new world, the great white purifier will guarantee that passage. So this is our participation now. Go to nature, go to nature, go to nature. Everything else is coming down. And we're not talking in linear time. We're talking quantum. And simultaneously, as voice of nature, all week, nature has been having our entire pod go through 6-hour transmissions almost every day. And it's about swinging our golden adamantine baseball bats at everything that is not in alignment with balance and nature and harmony and equality and all of those things that we have said yes to, that we agree to on the planet. We are the ones, we are angelic beings, and we have the capacity to swing our adamantine baseball bats lovingly at all the structures that are not working. And what we Miracles and Cosmic Love is witnessing right now, this nature is swinging her bat at the ring of fire. She is activating the ring. She is activating the grid lines, like we say, like we shared at the beginning of this love stream. This mountain range has been going off every single night. It's like lightning, but it's not. The whole mountain range has been discharging energy every single night, like a massive glowing light show the entire night. So this is messages from the inner earth now coming. So back to the metaphor of the cell. We have taken and transduced the information as antennas on the outside of the membrane. The cell then opens up walls and doors to receive that transducing of the energy of the information. And that information then goes into the cell, into the RNA. So this information is going into the center of the cell. We are the informants to the center of the cell. And we're just going to look at the clouds for a miracle, because this is where we start to see the relationship between the inner and the outer. There are so many unique clouds in the sky. We've all been noticing them. We've all been photographing them. Some of us have been photographing and noticing the unique clouds for years, because the clouds are a message from the inner earth. Okay, so what happens in the cell is the information then goes into the cell. The RNA is the filing cabinets. The RNA holds all the information of the DNA. And when the antenna transduces the information from the consciousness field, from spirit itself, what Bruce Lipton showed was that those little antennas on the outside of the cell are actually receiving information from spirit itself. We talk about them, the antennas receiving the information from the bloodstream. But what he showed was that those antennas on the cell are directly connected to spirit itself, to the consciousness itself. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. Or do a watch party right now, because it's very significant. And May 22nd is, it's in linear time, is only 5 miracle coordinate days away, when Comet Atlas and Comet Swan cross paths in alignment with the planet. So we as little antennas are receiving message from spirit itself. We are going through a quantum shift and restoring our relationship with spirit if we are listening. And once the information goes into the cell, it goes into those filing cabinets called the RNA. Whatever information goes into the cell based on how the little antennas are opening the gates and the doors for the information to go through, then the filing cabinets, the RNA, is where the filing cabinets are open and the information is pulled out of specific files to then inform the cell of what to do in relationship to what is happening on the external. This is a very important statement. The antenna receives the information, opens the doors and windows, sends it inside. We are sending the information to the inside of this sphere that we are on called a planet. And based on what we are sending in, that is the files and filing cabinets that are then opened. Those files that then get opened inside of the sphere that we are standing on, that we have a completely, we are in a co-creative, codependent relationship with this sphere that we are on right now, the Earthship Merkaba. So based on how we transduce the information and send it in, that's the files that are going to be opened inside of this sphere called the Earth. This planet, Gaia, Sophia. Then the information in specific files, filing cabinets, RNA in the cell, then informs the inside of the cell how to respond to the external circumstances. Us as a human species to move through the veils, it's programmed in the genes. When the 60th seed ignites in multiple beings, it'll be the end of the world as we know it, from the Gene Keys of Richard Rudd. Be the end of the world as we know it. And Gaia and the cells that make up her consciousness. Gaia and the cells that make up her consciousness, which means each individual being has a choice to unify with this consciousness or not. Gaia and the cells that make up her consciousness will move forth into a new reality. We don't know what it looks like, but it exists hidden at the depths of our DNA. So what the I Ching says of the 60th gene, and Richard Rudd did a modern day interpretation so that we could understand it and we could choose. We could make a choice. We can choose to step forth into this consciousness with nature. Back to the anomaly or the analogy, of the cell. Okay, so the filing cabinets were open based on what we little antennas were saying. The instructions in the filing cabinet of the RNA now are spilling inside the cell or this sphere called the planet, informing the DNA inside the planet, inside the cell, inside the sphere of how to respond to the external instructions. This is how we are all related. We are all one being, and we have the opportunity to participate celebratorily. The Hopi prophecy said, at this time, are you in right relation? Do you know where your water comes from? Do you know where your food comes from? Push off from the edge of the shore. There are those who will be afraid. That is just the fear of letting go of our human individuated personality and all of the external structures that we thought were real, that we relied on, that weren't. that we're an illusion and a matrix, that we had an experience inside of. Push off from the edge of the river. There are those who will be afraid. They will hang on tightly. They will suffer greatly. Push off into the edge of the river. Keep your head above water. Look around, see who is there with you, and celebrate. This could be a time of celebration. The river is flowing fast and it knows its destination. We Miracles in Cosmic Love know that we share this all the time. We are sharing it again for a reason, because this is a synthesized transmission for those who can truly hear, receive, and listen. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. Or start a watch party right now, because this is the moment that we choose this human species evolution with nature. And nature equals cosmic. It's the cosmos. Nature is the voice of the cosmos in form. This is a cosmic moment. Look, oh my God, it's a butterfly. Just flew right in front of the camera, like almost landed on the phone. Okay, so this is an empowered moment to choose our celestial origins, the 33rd gene, the ring of trials, the ring past not. We share information in these genetic ways because this is coding so that our intellect can get out of the way, and these transmissions actually turn on circuitry within us that is mechanistic so that we can release ourselves from the two-strand blueprint. So, as Bruce Lipton showed, once the RNA coding or instructions go into this inside of the cell, which is our planet, this sphere, Tara, the RNA then informs the DNA what to do, how to react to the external reality. That is what is happening right now. It's been happening all along, and we as a human species, particularly the Western world, have the opportunity to come into alignment with the spirit of nature herself. And that's why these mountains that we've been showing, we have been going off every night, discharging energy. And why the clouds have been so unique. Why is the sunset? Why has the sun become so unique? Why have the clouds become so unique? Because every night when this mountain range is discharging electrical energy and we are watching it, watching these mountains go off every single night like an incredible light show. The clouds are an interpretation of the feedback loop of the information that is coming from inside of the cell, from inside of the sphere, from inside of the planet. The clouds are showing us the response from inside, we could say, the inner earth. From inside of this cell, this Earthship Merkaba that we are on. What we Miracles in Cosmic Love, Unique Grace Star Nation realized when we were doing grid work on the planet. Sometimes the guidance would say, place your focus on the North Star. Now turn your body towards Vega and Lyra. Things like that. And when this information was coming through, we realized that we really were the captains on the ship informing this Earthship Merkaba. This is our relationship. This is our, we could say, codependent relationship, interdependent relationship with the sphere that we are on. And we didn't learn any of this in school, but this is the miracle coordinate, because what it has taken on this planet to get the Western world to, quotation marks, as one of the kahunas said to someone who was with me once, who wasn't listening to the transmission, sit down, shut the F up and listen. She's not yelling at you, she's trying to teach you. This is the voice of nature, and this is what comes through the transmissions. It's not yelling at us, it's trying to teach us. And the Western ego was so out of alignment with nature that Earth created, the consciousness of nature created something to get the Western world to sit down, shut up, and listen to the voice of nature. And there has never been a more significant time for each one of us to actually go within, still the mind. That's what everyone has been learning who went into quarantine, who hadn't already learned how to polarize, how to neutralize their polarities, was to still the inside so we can actually hear the guidance and the voice of nature that is coming through right now. She is inviting us to move along with her. The 60th gene, the Earthship Merkaba, the cracking of the vessel. Shane Shima says, according to the prophecies and according to the stars, at the end of June, a loud crack will be heard. And he is inviting all of us to come together in the most sacred way on 0522, when Comet Atlas and Comet Swan cross trajectories, cross paths, to align with this voice of nature that is informing all of us. And this past miracle week during the retrogrades, when our adamantine golden pod came together for 5 6-hour transmissions that came through, they were challenging transmissions because the guidance was batting everything inside of us that is not in alignment with unity consciousness in nature. Challenging everything we've known ourselves to be through the stories that we've told ourselves and the roles that we've played. This is a transitory moment. Masau, the great white brother, will purify the wickedness from the people. That's what we've gone through so that we can come back into alignment like many, many other different peoples on the planet who never lost their connection to nature. So, back to the analogy of the cell. Now that the cell has received the information from the little antennas like us, pulled the information out of the filing cabinets called the RNA, activated the DNA inside the cell. Now the DNA is going to send an emanation and a vibration back to the surface of the cell. That's us. We're on the surface. We're on the membrane of the cell, the membrane of the sphere, the membrane of the planet. So that DNA the instructions have been opened up inside the inner earth. And now the inner earth is vibrating that information or sending that information back to the surface. And that's why the clouds are so important now. What I learned when I walked the grids, my sonar turned on. I didn't know anything about grids and ley lines. My sonar turned on. We have sonar inside of us that got turned off because of borders, boundaries, taxes, and passports. The worst thing that ever happened to the human species on the planet. Because this is one garden and it doesn't have borders and boundaries. And humans are migratory beings. And they are meant to walk the good red road, which means to walk the planet in relation with the cosmos. And how did that occur with migratory nomadic peoples? Because they were connected to the clouds and connected to the stars and connected to this feedback loop from the surface to the inside of the cell, the membrane, the planet. Because that relationship was normal and natural, and because they remained nomadic. There is nothing more important to say about how we lost our way. Borders, boundaries, taxes, passports were a way of instilling into a certain aspect of the consciousness restriction of natural, normal movement in the garden. This is how a species comes into physicality in relationship with a planet and advances. through the nomadic nature, the nomadic movement. Look at how water and currents move around the planet. When we see that vast, go out from the planet and look back down, and you see the way the currents flow. That's the way humans are meant to flow. We were never meant to live in permanent structures. We were never meant to live in cities, towns, even villages. For temporary periods of time, nomadic people went to specific places. And maybe they stayed 6 weeks. Maybe they stayed for the summer. But they kept moving. And this part of our relationship has to be restored, which is why nature this week has been taking her golden adamantine bat to all of those borders, boundaries, taxes, passports, anything that restricts the natural movement of a species. She has been taking her adamantine bat, and we will definitely see more effects, because we miracles in cosmic love, just as a vessel, hanging out here in neutrality, resting in the morning and watching what nature is doing. She took her baseball bat to Area 51, big time. And what did we see? Next day, we saw an earthquake. We saw the highway between Reno and Vegas. A huge part of the highway is closed down. We just watched what nature... She's been taking her baseball bat to the British Parliament, the Canadian Parliament. She's been taking it over Mexico City. She's been taking it over Vancouver Island. She has been taking it to very specific places on the grids. And the guidance is coming through going like, you're going to see this. You're going to see this on the surface of the planet. And this is not about fear. It's about alignment, because when we are in alignment with nature, the crumbling of the cocoon is a natural part of the transformation. So when we as humans have an understanding of what is happening, and we can just throw away everything that is completely irrelevant and come to nature, and you don't have to live out in the forest. Nature is inside of us. This voice of nature, this spirit is cosmic, and it's coming through us. This could be and is a time of celebration. And this is merely an invitation to understand more deeply what is happening. So back to the cell, Bruce Lipton's analogy of the cell. Now, the DNA has been activated inside of the cell because we as little antennas have sent in information, pulled out the filing cabinets. The filing cabinets informed the inside of the cell, the inner earth, what to do, how to respond. Now, that emanation comes back to the surface of the sphere called the cell or the planet, and then it starts to emanate out into the stratosphere, which is why the clouds are so important these days, because it's literally light language in the clouds. We, Miracles in Cosmic Love, one day in Hawaii, Kauai, many, many miracles ago, no names for the garden, looked into the clouds one day at sunset and saw the light, the fire letters with my eyes. A miraculous sunset, and the fire letters were in the clouds. This is the light language in the clouds that is informing us. Lay on the earth and stare at those clouds every day. Be connected with sunrise and sunset. Watch the sun go down every miracle day. Look at the clouds for our information, because when there's no borders, boundaries, taxes, or passports inside our belief system, take your adamantine baseball bat to them. The adamantine particles of creation are golden particles. They are aligned with cosmic love, cosmic consciousness. That's why we offered the golden meditation maybe like 5 miracle weeks ago, and then the into the deep. The golden meditation was to move our consciousness out of serpentine energy, out of the serpentine kundalini, which is the carbon DNA. Then we offered the Into the Deep meditation. Into the Deep was like an intervention meditation for all versions of we that were still addicted to a false reality. And we had a long chat with our pod about all the stuff in the news Our pod was wondering about Q and all these things and going like, that's all distraction. Nature is inside of all of us, and she is informing us in totality. We love this little hair. It's Wee's antenna. Wee's antenna is on high. Nature is inside of us. Don't worry about Q. Don't worry about the conspiracies. Whatever is being cleaned up on this planet that needs to be cleaned up is getting cleaned up. There is a forerunner team on this planet that knows how to commune with nature, the indigenous. And the indigenous has nothing to do with the color of our skin, because indigenous frequency, that essence, is in many of us. So the clouds are informing us. It's the feedback loop from the inside of the planet. We, as the antenna, sending the information in. She is sending the information out. Wow, it's so cool. There's a hummingbird over there that is just like hovering, like, wow, it's really unique. It was tuning into us like a drone. It's very cool, but not a drone, because it was real nature. It was tuning in. The winged ones are always listening. The winged ones are carrying our messages. So while you're laying on the ground and looking at the clouds and receiving the information to your sonar to tell you how to migrate, how to move, follow the message. What would it be like if the humans on the planet just started bombarding the false borders and walking across them together like caribou? Why is it that massive migratory species like buffalo and caribou and so on, why did those forces that came around the world destroy the migratory species to the point where they were almost extinct? Why? Because those migratory species are the natural way that we are supposed to exist. You start putting up borders for the humans, and you kill the natural migratory species so that they're extinct. Now we don't have the regular flow on the surface of the cell to inform the cell inside of which RNA to pull out of the filing cabinet for existence. There's no accident that the wild buffalo came en masse to Standing Rock, because they are our star nations. The star nations are in the trees, they're in the deer, they're here with us. This migratory piece that got shut down in humanity, even though the virus isn't real and doesn't exist, if it did, it was nature's message to get rid of any aspect of fear that is limiting us from claiming our true sovereign authority in relationship to this planet. Nature wants nothing more than for the survival of the human species, and that is contingent on our capacity to move naturally around the planet. So we invite all of we to take your adamantine baseball bat. We're going to explain this a little more because it came through for our pod this week. The guidance showed that what is beneath the surface right now for a lot of people on the planet is that the natural life force, we like to say life power energy, is still restricted way down in the sacral, in fear. And so the guidance pushed every single button of our pod this week in our online retreats. Every single button to trigger enough energy to get us in touch with a word called rage. And this is a very loving message, but there is an energy that has been suppressed in the mass human consciousness. It's called oppression. It's 47th gene. So we have to get in touch with that part inside of us of restriction. The restriction that has occurred inside of limited blueprints. The guidance even showed us how to remove the mechanism of the 2-strand DNA personality blueprint this week. It transformed our pod. But before we could remove the mechanism, the guidance had us all pull out our golden swords from our sheaths, our golden adamantine swords, cosmic love, and our golden adamantine baseball bats, and start swinging at all of these external structures. The 60th gene, the shadow frequency, is about limiting structures that are so constrictive that they strangle magic. Magic is nature. They strangle the capacity for magic to flow. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. This is a very significant love stream. Please go to Shane Shima's post on his page, and I'll post it on my page as well, about this alignment with Comet Atlas and Comet Swan on 0522, May 22nd, and its relationship to the end of June. And possibly the contingency of our survival on this planet. So the adamantine baseball bat, because when the guidance comes through, when we are surrounded by a pod who can hold the container, the guidance goes into the container to the cutting edge of human consciousness. And whoever creates the container, we are used for the guidance to come in and see what is the cutting edge for the consciousness. And what the guidance saw this week was the pent-up rage inside of humanity. Humanity that has been bound like cattle by a system of law and borders and boundaries and taxes and passports. One of the things we showed WeezePod this week, one of the clearings we did many times in Victoria, British Columbia, was the legislature. And you go in the legislature and they've got the mace, and it's this golden stick. And whoever sits at the front of the legislature holds the mace. And the mace was used to beat people to pay their taxes. Hidden in plain sight. It's still right there in the legislature. There is an underlying joy-filled energy called rage. And this, hi, hang on, got to get this guy on. Hi. He's going to jump in with the kisses, the unicorns. Okay, so the reason that the guidance is bringing all these pieces to the surface is not because of us versus them or good versus evil. Not at all. We are one unified field, and that's what nature wants us to come back into alignment with, is the recognition that we are one unified field. And the swinging of the adamantine baseball bat is to assist the outside of this membrane, this planet, to release and liberate these structures of constriction and limitation. And it will set all of us free. Doesn't matter what role in the play we've played. It is the miracle coordinate that our angelic, energetic body participate in the release of these constricting external structures. And we have just explained why they have to be released. Because everything in nature is nomadic. And to remain aligned with Gaia Sophia and the consciousness and the 60th gene, the 60th seed ignites in multiple beings, the end of the world as we know it, and Gaia and the cells that make up her consciousness will move forth into a new reality. This bashing of these external structures to help them come down. We always used to say the Berlin Wall came down in a day. This is the same participation. It started with one brick and then another brick and then another brick, and then one day everyone was on the Berlin Wall taking it down together. This is the moment of momentum, and every being in every role of this play can participate in this together. The dissolution of what we created together, sending it back to the central sun, sending it back to 0 point together. Because this tsunami wave now has taken off inside of our consciousness, called the voice of nature. Guidance always said that, you know, those in the military were going to like drop to their knee when the shift came and go, Madame, how can I serve you? Meaning the voice of nature. FI, feminine intelligence, feminine intuition. So we invite all of we to understand that the adamantine particles of creation are the celestial particles, cosmic love. And we have the access, and that's why we did the golden meditation to help the consciousness take the leap into the golden, out of the serpentine, out of the carbon DNA. This is a natural process of nature. And this transmission is helping us to get the intellectual understanding. So we can go, oh, I get it. This makes sense. We can just drop everything and get on with this. And what the guidance showed our pod this week, once it pushed every single one of we's buttons, it helped the pod get in touch with that energy to have the courage to pull out the sword to bring down the old structures. It's like we all participate. We all created it. We all participate in its taking down, so that we can restore ourselves to the good red road as nomadic cosmic beings, star nations. And like we say, the star nations are here. They're in the pines. They're in the deer. They're all around us. The cetaceans, the star nations are here. And this is us as a human species saying, we are done with the human experiment of good and evil. We're done with the human experiment of duality. This is our sentient participation. We always used to say to some of the beloveds that we participated with in the financial system, you all know that you could put me on that little balcony at the Vatican right now and we could get this done. Let's make this day, this moment, this transmission, that little balcony at the Vatican, because nature was swinging her bat at the Vatican, and we just found out that there was earthquakes under the Vatican. Nature gets the final say, and as our good friend Peter May said this week, you definitely want nature on your team. Nature is that voice inside of all of we. And nature is not afraid of a virus. Nature is not afraid of her own creation. And she has both Shiva and Shakti power to create and destroy. And we can participate with fearlessness to swing the adamantine baseball bat. It's not bad to participate in the removal of these artificial structures. This is the opening of heaven's gate. We saw in a lucid dream, a vision, maybe 2 miracle weeks ago, here in the garden. We saw the gates of Shambhala open and we were going into the mountains together. But it's a cosmic shift in consciousness. And it is the understanding that it is okay for all of us to participate in the breaking down of that constrictive structure. Simple containers allow magic to flow through the 60th gene, and the containers on the planet that are no longer necessary, called banks, borders, boundaries, governments. Because as we come into self-sustaining, self-regulating, self-generating beings called angelic, celestial, which is the truth of who we are, our remembrance, the awakening of the consciousness to remember. It was a game, it was a play. And nature has the last say. And it's right now. It's right now. And we can participate together. And we can do it in joy. And here's the other thing. When the guidance got our pod in touch with the rage, first of all, the rage of what we have consented to in our creation. It's kind of like a little kid who's drawn something on a paper and then they go, oh, I hate this. And they take a black crayon and they go, I hate this. I'm crossing this out. It's okay. We're done with the play. So once the guidance got the pod in touch with the rage, that piece was so necessary, because the rage piece was about going like, it was about looking at our own arrogance of our creation and what we still want to hold on to, that is individuated, that doesn't serve the whole. That's the rage. The guidance had us, like when the guidance had us pull things into a golden ball and then knock it out of the ballpark with the adamantine baseball bat, the guidance had each person be fully responsible for what was in the ball that they were knocking out of the park. It's not about blaming or pointing fingers. It's about us taking responsibility and sending it back to 0 point. And that took rage inside of the self to go, ah! It's all my creation. And to not be afraid to find the energy to send the creation back to the central sun, back to source. So the next piece that's very significant is that when the guidance, because everyone had fear of swinging the baseball bat at things, structures and grid lines and family members and whatever. But when we took responsibility and said, I'm sending this part of my play back to the ethers, and everyone started swinging, this upsurge of cosmic energy started taking over everyone's body in the pod that was on these retreats. Everyone started to find this cosmic energy again, and the guidance pointed out to each of we, as Shane Shima said to we many miracle years ago, unity. We're playing a 5th dimensional game on a 3D chessboard. Most of humanity has been disconnected from their 5th dimensional self that is playing this 3D game. And the swinging of the adamantine baseball bat started to get the pod back in touch with their spiritual essence. And once we make that reconnection to source, we remember how powerful we are. And we start to get into that aspect of our avatar again and go, oh my God, I've got like all these other parts of me to work with. I'm so powerful. I actually have all this energy from all of these dimensions of who I am. That's what the pod discovered. The pod discovered that they weren't just physical human in this process. And in discovering we're not just physical human, we get back into the spiritual aspect of who we are. Bruce Lee, how do all the Jedis do it? Not by trying to change the physical from the physical, or trying to change the physical from the place of the mind that created what we're currently in. That doesn't work. It creates frustration. It's about swinging, try it, swing that baseball, make it out of adamantine golden particles, and pull a ball towards you of something in your creation or in the world that is not in alignment. Because if it doesn't feel in alignment with you, guaranteed it's not in alignment with anyone. We are not swinging the bat at people per se. We're swinging the bat at the essence of our creation, and we are on the outside of this membrane, of this sphere, this planet that we're on. As the feedback loop, she's sending us this information in the clouds and in her weather systems. She's asking us, swing the baseball bat at that creation, at that play that you created on my stage, my surface. If you really want to go forth with me, then participate by swinging your baseball bat at that play that you created and send it back to 0 point, send it back to source. The 60th seed ignites multiple beings. The end of the world as we know it, Gaia and the cells that make up her consciousness will move forth into a new reality. This is how we did it, by participating, going, I don't want those governments. I don't want those taxes. I don't want to be beaten and impoverished into systems that keep me inside of boundaries. You know, when you walk into the courtroom in the old system, if you go past that little gate, then you're like cattle. We don't want that. We're done. We're just sharing these little pieces to understand that this wall can come down in a day. And May 22, Comet Atlas and Comet Swan cross their trajectories. And Shane Shima points out in his report about Comet Atlas, Atlas was supposed to be the titan that held up the world for eternity. And Comet Atlas a few weeks ago started breaking up. It's significant. It's a metaphor that that reality is breaking up. Comet Atlas can't hold that reality up anymore. Swan is the Cygnus, the swan song. The swan song is the end of the play. And this is how we get to participate in it. By sending all of our co-creations and collaborations back to the 0 point, back to the central sun, back to source, and coming into alignment and celebration as true star nations on this planet, standing with our pine nations, the pine people, and the deer people, and the whale nations, and the carib, all of it. So lay down, take a look at the clouds, because that is the signals that the center of this cell that we are on, this sphere called the planet, Gaia, Tara, those are the messages. That's the feedback loop that she is sending us. And then we can look and we can go, we're swinging our adamantine bat. We're taking it down collectively together. And that information goes back into the center of the cell, of the sphere of Gaia. And she goes, oh, good. We're all now working together in agreement for the dissolution, for the stepping down. One of these great indigenous elders said he doesn't get excited unless the squirrels are getting excited, meaning we created a drama, we created a play on the surface, on the stage. And we are participating consciously in saying we're taking down the stage. It's like a festival. The festival, the build happens, the festival occurs, the festival is over, and then there's the strike. We're in the strike. How perfect. We're taking our baseball bats and we're in the strike. And we can do this joyously, celebratorily. We can have fun with it, because once the golden adamantine pod in the online retreat this week started swinging their adamantine baseball bats, so much energy was released, so much new awareness was released in the pod's consciousness, and so much awareness of our capacity as spiritual beings to create beauty, to make spaciousness for love and harmony and balance together. And to be in the great mystery on this Earthship Merkaba, the 60th gene, the cracking of the vessel. To be in the great mystery together. Watch the clouds. That is her beautiful, hang on. The clouds are her beautiful light language messages to us. It's her feedback loop. nature's feedback loop. And then we get to respond in every miracle coordinate. And all it takes is that dismantling of who we are not to come back into alignment with nature. We love we so much. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. And Shane has invited we Miracles in Cosmic Love, Unity Grace Star Nation, Miracles in Cosmic Love. Why do we play with names like that? Because we are nomadic. Some of the indigenous traditions change their names 7, 8, 9 times. Because we're nomadic, we are the reflection of cosmic essence when we are truly in alignment with nature. So Shane has asked we to offer a meditation on 522, and we're tuning into that. We've had some really powerful meditation transmissions come through for the pod that has been supporting these transmissions, and so we might make one of those available on 522. We're just tuning in and we're listening. And start swinging our adamantine baseball bats and feel the power and the truth and our capacity to dissolve the shadow frequency of constrictive structures that strangle magic from flowing, and allow the magic of nature to truly reveal to us what is here. Interdimensional. Okay, we love we so much, so much. Thank we beautiful pod for sharing these miracle coordinates with we. And there is a lot in this transmission. It would be a really good one for transcribing. And it's just giving the mechanics of what is occurring. And yeah, what I'm being tapped on the shoulder is just to say one more piece, which we shared earlier in this transmission, about how after the pod started swinging the golden adamantine, the guidance took us into another meditation which removed the mechanistic structure of the design of the human and restored the pod's consciousness to very celestial. So maybe we'll do another love stream or a meditation to do that piece. But yeah, we're just going to impart that piece, the removing of the mechanism of the false emotional. And so just by saying that, everyone who's participating, if you choose, may that mechanism be removed so that we can come back into true cosmic, emotional, cosmic love, which is all encompassing and sentient. Love we so much.